Winter Brid. Let's see. So live react because like I was gonna do it earlier. But yeah. I did look a little bit at the skill kits, so let's see. I think the biggest TLDR on this is like the damage taken. So she's a shotgun, fire, and burst too. On top of that, it's a 20-second, and she does have a really high amount of attack buff again. And again, it's another attack buff, which I mean, it's very interesting because like now you have to rely on attack damage instead on I guess, which is actually fine. It's actually really good because like she does have damage taken increase. This is 15% only for wind code enemies, and then there's another 12%, so this is like 27%. And this is like only for wind code enemies, which also, by the way, this also can work if she's off burst, so she doesn't have to burst herself. But then another thing that I'm thinking of is this is actually a good amount of attack buff if there is somehow like a other units that have other good self like attack damage buff themselves, but then they don't have a lot of attack buff. Can you guys name me some characters that have those? There are some, right? Like that has really high attack buff multiplier but don't have that. But then the thing is like she does have this damage taken, which affects all wind code enemies, which I actually think can work not only as just for specifically shotgun, although likely we will put her in the shotgun team, to be fair. We are likely gonna put her in the shotgun team, but this damage taken is gonna be there because if we actually look into the shotgun team, right, we were using Leona, and Leona is providing like that crit buff and crit buff and hit rate buff. But if you never really need that hit rate buff, she's mainly benefiting Dorothy. But then even then, like let's say even with Dorothy, right, it's not as necessary still that she does have like attack damage buff, and she has high attack, ridiculously high attack, to be fair. So if we have Doro right here, so take a look at this. Yeah, she has like high attack buff. She does have some attack damage, but it's mainly when she is having that bonus. And she does have, let's see here, she does have pierce damage bonus, which yeah, so that pierce damage bonus is basically whenever she is piercing, and that piercing happens whenever she's doing this. So she, during her laser pierce, she gets like a lot of attack damage slash pierce damage. So that way, that means that the damage taken is actually beneficial on Summer Doro. But this attack buff isn't as much because you have Dove and Drake that gives like so much attack already that this one doesn't matter as much. But I mean, it's still significant and could potentially be used on other teams depending on how much like they don't have like damage taken increase, and how much those other units have like a personal like attack damage buff or pierce damage buff or whatever, like a true damage, I think true damage, yeah, whatever those like multipliers in that same bracket is. The attack damage, pierce damage, I believe sustained damage also should be in those like same category multiplier that are going to be additive to each other, as long as you know the property, the attack type property matches. Except that that's fine. I think though that she does a good amount of damage herself, and keep in mind this is also with Dove. Like 5 normal attacks, she has like 675% final attack damage for one enemy, and same with this one also. It is kind of like similar to almost like who was it? Summer Helm, except without like the cooldown reduction. This would have been crazy if it also had cooldown reduction, actually. But another thing that I'm thinking is we could use her also as off burst, basically on fire advantage, which wind code enemies, so fire advantage. We could end up using her as an off burst also. And just to give that idea, right, I believe, yeah, I used like Ludmilla here, so I didn't use and I'll talk about this another thing, but so I didn't have the absolute team, so I didn't use the absolute team. So in fire advantage, you could end up like using her as an off burst. We used Ludmilla here, but then I guess like if you did invest in her, you could technically should be able to use her as well, right? And she should be better than Ludmilla because you can give her DPS like overloads as well, right? So basically you could make her just like that supporting units that you don't need, but with the damage taken increase. So you could do that, or you can just use this cooldown, make her as the main B2. That could be another option. If we look at the current fire team main set right now, right, like take a look at the shotgun team for the number one team that used it. It used Leona, and then Dorothy and Drake. And the thing is, like, there's Bunny Soda here, but likely we're gonna be end up using Soline instead of Bunny Soda just for the cooldown, and then use that Brid. Now the question is, will we have enough energy gain? And that is something that we'll have to just figure out. I guess, and also it depends on the boss technically. Like for example, the energy gain on this team, if you have Soline and likely Brid, is gonna be difficult in shooting range, but like in a boss where the boss is like huge, all the shotgun pellets like hit, it should like end up being pretty decent. So Soline and Brid likely will be used in this upcoming fire raid together in the shotgun team. There is a fairly high possibility on that, which makes me kind of wanna I might end up like pulling a couple more copies of Soline, just likely. Mainly for me, the reason is just because my level cap. I'm gonna reach the level cap soon, so well, not soon, probably like in like half a year. And to increase the level caps, you need duplicates, limit breaks duplicates. I'm like 841 to 989, so I'm getting close there, and I am getting there at a higher pace than like my level cap, so I might increase that a little bit. That's the main reason why I wanted the duplicates of the Soline though. So let's take a look. So that's kind of like Brid likely gonna be in the shotgun fire team, and there are potential possibilities of just like being that off burst for the damage taken increase. And see, if you look here also, like maybe later down the road, replacing Modernia, right? Because you have Grave, Alice, and Ray here, but then Modernia is unless like Modernia has something to provide other than damage, we might see even replacing this Modernia out and just having Brid as like a damage taken increase. 27% damage taken increase on a team that doesn't have any damage taken increase is actually pretty huge, considering that damage taken increase is a separate multiplier from peers, from attack damage and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm just saying that that is likely a possibility that could happen. So even if just for the damage taken increase, and this is a limited unit, for anyone that wants to take seriously on the fire advantage elements, you might want to use that. Otherwise, you could probably just opt into the neutrals. Like Winter Ludmilla technically is the more neutral damage taken increase, right? and it's roughly around similar amount on that. So I'm just saying that this damage taken can be used in other situation or other team composition, not just the shotgun team, although likely gonna be used in the shotgun team for fire advantage though. But maybe if shotgun team gets like another like more OP B2, which it could still come in handy because this is just for win code. So later down the road, we don't know. Who knows? But anyways, this is just one example. But yeah, so that's the Brid shotgun fire on my thoughts. She does seem to have like pretty decent damage. There's like additional damage, and just by think about it, like Soline was doing pretty decent damage, and but then she doesn't have any damaging skill, right? So now what would happen if we put in like Brid also? I mean, she will have the damage taken increase, but then and then technically she will buff everybody else with that attack up. But yeah, I mean, one of the worst part is like she doesn't have like any attack damage. But I think a lot of the units, especially for the shotguns, they have like attack damage on their own or a little bit of attack damage on others source. Like even Drake has some attack damage when she's bursting, right? If we look at Drake here, so even Drake has like some attack damage, right? Whenever she's bursting, not so much. So it's kind of same boat as like as Doro. The attack damage is not consistent, but that does mean that like the damage taken can do a little bit more work. So yeah, that's how I see Brid. Now looking at Diesel, so where would she be fit in, right? Because you are seeing here critical damage, and then there's like a little bit of sustained damage buff, and you know, depending on like the intro or highlight, however much it is. And then so there's the intro status, and then there's the highlight status, and then there's this one. So I'll just read this out. Activates when an ally or self destroys an enemy part, affects all allies, gains immunity to noise pollution, can easily stack up to 3 times. And then when an ally gets this one requires like enemy parts destruction, affects self, gets sustained damage, damage 68%. And then this one is attacking full charge when not in full burst, affects self, it increases sustained damage by 3 seconds. That is a lot. That is 318% sustained damage for 3 seconds when you're not in full burst. So you have to, like, if you can time it where she's charging before full burst and gets it in before full burst. This is 2 stacks also, so it's actually like 600. That is a lot of while not in full burst. The not in full burst might be a mistranslation. No, let's see. Let me double check real quick. So yeah, she's increasing it while she's hitting, right? Not full burst. But then the thing is like, okay, right here we're in full burst status. So let's see, 1, 2, so on, so 2. Is she gonna drop her stacks? She's dropping her stacks. Oh, that's full burst, and she did increase her stacks. So I don't know then. Does she get this? So she still got the stacks, and that's still during full burst right here. The skill has been updated. Oh, shift up. Oh, it's just full charge. Okay. Where did they get the not in full burst? Anyways, let's move on. Okay, I was like reading the wrong thing this whole time, I guess. Oh my god. Anyways, so she has full burst and take full burst, sustained damage increase. This is a lot of sustained damage increase. That is a lot of sustained damage. When entering full burst, it affects a stage target. That is 63%. This is a bit too much high multiplier, but that also means that damage taken and critical damage should be pretty good, and attack buffs should be pretty good. Um, and another thing is, would she work? So here's the thing. She doesn't necessarily have to be the one shooting, and this is actually good for some. You could even do, because like with, all right, so this is the team with Miranda, right? This one. So it's either you're using Maxwell to buff Mihara, or you're using like Helm to, it's for healing, and then you're using Summer Rosanna. And with this setup, it actually still could work. And there's a critical damage here, so you could give her critical rate. She doesn't technically need to be the one that gets the receiving. And the thing is, like, the fact that she has to do a full charge every 3 seconds even will mean that like the Miranda team comp is not really gonna work well in terms of like if she's the one receiving it, but that should be okay. Mihara could be the one receiving it, and then like she's just benefiting off like Rosanna, and then that way you can also just build her like with crit rate on like the overload. That is a huge amount. This is a huge amount of like sustained damage increase, and this is when attacking with just any full charge. That is a huge amount. So 600%. So, and then this one is the sustained damage that's gonna happen, the 63%. Another thing is that if she does burst, there is like a bonus, like additional 181, which basically, like if she does burst, yeah, it will be additional. I think the damage is actually pretty good for, especially for fire, if we're gonna set this up like this. So you don't really need like, you don't really need ammo on these kind of units, because all that's necessary for them is to just hit like full charge, right? Resilience is like more than enough. They don't need you don't really have to worry about like that. I mean, there's higher chance of dropping it, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. To the reload time is 2 seconds, but with resilience she will reload like so 30% is, or lose 30%, so that would be like -6. So that would 0.6, so that would be 1.4, and then a full charge is just 1 second, so she should be able to upkeep that full charge. Affects all allies except self for 1 second if self is in highlight status. Hit rate -100%. That shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's just 1 second. What are you doing? And it's when she's bursting. She's gonna burst herself. That's when she's bursting. That's not really that big of a deal. It's it's 1 second. And let's see. If you destroy parts, then it seems like you're gonna lose. You can get the immunity to noise pollution. So if the boss has parts, that shouldn't be also another problem. So whenever she's using her burst skill, she gets like crit damage, and then she becomes like, she goes into intro. Whenever she is entering full burst for the first time without using burst skill, the highlight will happen. Without, if she doesn't, effect persists after. Is, yeah, I don't think it matters as much then. But then that would also mean that she should burst second. So, because like this is entering full burst for the first time, so it's either you start a starter. Oh, she has to be second burst regardless. You have to burst second. She has to burst second, because like otherwise you're not gonna have the sustained damage. It's like, I mean, you are gonna be constantly on highlight status. Oh wait, hold up, let me think about it. When entering full burst for the first time after using own burst, and then when entering full burst for the first time without using own burst. So I think the question is, can she have, is it one or the other, or can she have both? If she can have both, then you would burst first with her, and then you would burst second with her. But I think it's like, but then that would be so much like increase. Yeah, so well, so because okay, the way it's worded, because of how English is, so you can say that. All right, let me tell you something about like stupid English, right? Because like you could, both can mean the same thing. So you can all right, because you can do something like this. Hold on, wait. So it could be entering. So you could be entering full burst for the first time, right? Kind of like that. Or you could be entering full burst for the first time after using burst. Like, so with the way how English is, the conditional is like first time after using burst, or just first time. Like, it's the full burst for the first time after using full burst, or first time. Yeah, I'm just saying both technically applies with how it is. So it really depends. Yeah. I'm just saying it. Both of them does apply with how it is. So you can see what I mean by depending on how it is, right? If the meaning is this one, then we can only have one. If the meaning is this two, then you can have both. I do think that it's more like you can only have one. So likely we're gonna do we're gonna have her burst second. Because like otherwise this second burst part wouldn't make sense. It's like, oh, if self is intro status, if self is in highlight status, right? I think it doesn't make any sense otherwise, like that. This is that. But anyways, moving on. Basically, it seems like she would be a pretty decent DPS also, and I think depending on the combination. So here's another thing that I want to point out. It's like, yeah, she has like insane sustained damage, and so having a damage taken increase would actually be helpful. Although this time around she can provide her own damage taken increase. But another thing is she doesn't have any attack buff. So another unit that has a lot of attack buff, just saying, So that's also why I was thinking like, okay, it doesn't necessarily that it's not necessary that Brid is the one that goes to the shotgun team, or maybe you don't bring Summer Doro. That could be a possibility. I guess later down the road maybe. So eventually, like later down the road, maybe that might not necessarily be the case. There's a possibility on that. So here for Brid, we can slot her into technically this team. You would replace Cinderella with Brid, or sorry, with Diesel. I mean Diesel. Yeah, you would replace Cinderella with Diesel, or if you're not gonna invest in the absolute team, she can be the fire filler for this. Because like for here, I used Yunhwa. Well, one of the main reasons why I did use Yunhwa as the B2 was mainly just because for this particular boss fight, the Ziz fight, because this was Ziz, having that true damage AoE was just super useful. But if I didn't need that super true damage AoE that Yunhwa was also providing, where she destroyed, because she was destroying the balls, right? I probably wouldn't have used Yunhwa, and I probably would have kept using 2B. So yeah. So in this case, like I feel like you don't need you don't need 2B anymore, and I could probably like just use Diesel instead. So that's just to give you a perspective. So there is definitely like a usage on Diesel. The question is how much. So you know, that's up to you how much you want to try hard fire advantage raid, because you're getting, you just need more DPS, right? And Brid, she has the potential to be used as an off burst, even though she doesn't burst herself, just because like there's that damage taken. And like I said, you can probably end up like even use her as an off burst, replace like some of these units here. Depends, right? You're over Fire Ray. Oh, for Fire Ray, for her over Fire Ray, I think it's like Fire Ray does have like some benefits, but that's true. She does give damage taken, which could be more valuable than Fire Ray. For Union Raid in particular, because like you are, so like let's say if you're doing fire, right, you have probably like Grave, and then you have like Mihara as your off burst, and then you have Rappi Red Hood, right, as your other DPS. I mean, you could also make Rappi as the B1 also, and then have her and then Fire Ray also, and just have like a full fire team comp. Yeah, so either or, I could see her being used in Fire Raid. Yeah, like in Fire Advantage on Union Raid also. Yeah. They look fairly pretty good, at least like, you know, on just looking at it from above. I didn't like do like actual calculation on how much DPS they're gonna do, but these are pretty huge multipliers that I could see working out, and those are possibly where they're gonna be slotted into for fire. Another thing, she doesn't have to be for Diesel. She doesn't have to be in the Cinderella or replacing Cinderella in absolute or in the Cinderella team. you could end up like putting her also in the crown team, for example, because she can get the benefit from mast. Like mast gives crit rate, which can, and she has like some crit damage buffs herself, right? Well, that's not really that much. 20% is actually not a lot. I guess. Oh, another thing that we didn't really talk about also is no, never mind. I was thinking something else. Never mind. Yeah. Were we gonna use Naita? So if we're gonna replace the OG teams, for a lot of you that didn't invest in the Absolute, because I know a lot of you didn't, she would be in that team, or she could be in that team. It depends if the boss has core also. If the boss has core, then might consider I don't know if we're gonna replace Grave though. A lot of people that didn't invest Night or Absolute for sure will. But if you did invest in Absolute, it could end up being in the shotgun team, and then you would use Diesel or Brid as a damage taken off burst. or actually replace Brid with the with Rosanna. You could do that. You could have Brid, and yeah, you would have, yeah, because another thing is like they don't have like attack up really. If you look at Brid, she doesn't have a self attack up. Same with Diesel, she doesn't have a self attack up. So it's actually relatively safe to use in the Miranda team with Mihara. So you could end up having the Miranda team with this with Rosanna instead of Rosanna, you could end up like using Brid here or Naita. Technically Naita could be here. Naita could be on the Miranda team or in the shotgun team. Either or, I think could work. Yeah, either or could work. And then having in for Diesel. Okay, the funny thing is you can actually slot her in pretty much all the team comps except maybe the Grave. Maybe you don't want her. Yeah, you probably don't want her in the Grave team. She could fit in the Miranda team. She could fit in the Crown team with Mast. She could fit in the Cinderella team or the Absolute team. And she could fit in, yeah, I would say those are the main ones. The Crown team, the Miranda team, and the Absolute / Cinderella team for Diesel. And Brid can be in the Miranda team, or a damage taken increase on the Grave team, like an off burst, or she could be the B2 in the shotgun team. Or she could also be the damage taken in here, or also the B2 here. Technically she is a supporter that has high attack buff, so she could be the B2 in the Cindy team also for Brid. So yeah, overall I could see some different flexibilities on the usage for those units. For fire advantage, okay, like we're strictly speaking fire advantage, and in terms of neutral, I personally kind of have a hard time seeing, mainly just because like neutral just doesn't really work out that well nowadays. We're getting more and more very elemental specific. But yeah, That's what I think on all of those.